Welcome to Dungeon Academics. My name is Thomas and I will be your instructor. In this video I would like to talk about ability scores in Dungeons & Dragons, specifically ability score progression. This is a topic that I have been debating for a long time. I do not like the way Dungeons & Dragons handles ability score generation and ability score progression. I think it leads to too many compromises in character development, and I think it leads to some quite potent gameplay issues with saving throws, especially in higher level play. The issues that I have can be summarized quite easily. That character creation is far too dependent on ability scores, and most systems of generating ability scores are far too swingy. If you roll for ability scores, the dice are far too fickle, and the difference between a player with a lucky set of ability scores and unlucky set of ability scores is quite horrific. On the other hand, if you use a standard array or point buy, you end up with quite a dry system. It's certainly fair, but it's also quite dry. And I've been thinking about how to improve this. And I think I have a great answer that I can back up mathematically. This system, as it is right now, can be implemented straight away in 5th edition, either the 2014 or the 2024 versions, without any major mechanical tweaking. But I think if I was going to do a ground-up rewrite of the game, I would use this system, and it would certainly interact with other systems in an even better way. Okay, what is my idea? Well, firstly, I'm going to use standard array for all characters, and it's a modified standard array. The standard array, as is at the moment, is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. And I'm actually going to give everyone a slightly worse standard array, 14, 14, 12, 10, 10, 8. This is a couple of points lower, 4 points lower. And then I'm going to make it worse. I'm going to say there are no ability score increases from either player species race in the 2014 version or background from the 2024 version. So when you are a level 1 character, that is your ability score array, 14, 14, 12, 10, 10, 8. In addition to that, I'm going to say there are no more half feats. Any feat that gives a bonus to an ability score, you lose that bonus. You just get the abilities of the feat. But here's the fun part. Every time your character gains a level, you do two things. Firstly, you increase your lowest ability score by 1. And in the case that that's a tie, you get to pick which one you raise. And then you get to raise any ability score by 1. So you are effectively increasing the ability score total by 2 every time you level up. This has a number of positive effects, and I'd like to go through those, but firstly I'm going to address the one negative effect that I mentioned, that I think standard array is dry. I think standard array is dry because you do not get that many choices in character creation. So rolling for ability scores added a very personal element. I would love to see a little bit more depth in character creation, especially with the interaction between player race or species and the background that you pick. I'd love to see a choice of abilities. So if you want to play an elf, you can get a standard list of elven abilities that you can pick from, or you can pick from some general abilities that are available to all players. So let's say you wanted to play an elf, but you weren't really interested in the spellcasting side of it. So elves get dark vision. That's a physiological trait. But for the elven trance, that's something they train and learn to do. So maybe your elf didn't learn that. Maybe they learned something else. And for high elves, they get the free cantrip. Maybe they learned something else instead. So some traits you would get physiologically, and some traits you'd get through training or culture. Let's have a choice there. That would be something to implement for 6th edition. But for 5th edition, obviously, I'm not going to rewrite that at the moment. But that would be my way to introduce a little bit more flavour into character creation. So let's look at the mathematics of this ability score mechanic. If you take standard array, the standard array adds up to a total of 72 ability points as is. And if you do point by, you can get up to a total of 72 as well. If you use roll 4 drop 1, the average is a little bit higher at about 73.5, so roughly 2 points more on average. My version is 68, total of 68 points. And you don't get the +2 +1 that most player species get, or player backgrounds give. So standard array for 5e, you start with 75 ability points in general. For mine, you start with 68. But total ability points is not that important compared to top 3 ability points. Most player classes use 3 ability scores the most. Some 2, some maybe 4, but I think 3 is quite common. Consider Barbarian. Barbarian is interested in their strength, their constitution, their dexterity. They all play an important role, and most players will choose to improve those with the ability score increases that they get. And it may be the case that the other 3 ability scores don't get touched for the entire duration of the campaign. It would be entirely possible for them to start at Charisma 8 and still have Charisma 8 at level 20, because this focus is on improving the most important ones, the most useful ones. And I think 3 is quite reasonable. Paladins, they want high charisma, high strength, high constitution in general. Warlocks are interested in their charisma, their constitution, their dexterity. It's quite rare that you find a character class that is specifically only interested in 2, possibly the rogue being an exception there. And it's quite rare to find a character class that really wants 4 ability scores rated high, unless you have some crazy multi-class. So let's compare the ability score totals and the top 3 totals. Now, most character classes give a total of 5 ability score increases between levels 1 and 20. Barbarian, for example, level 4, 8, 12, 16 and 19 give you an ability score improvement. And if you take all of those and you concentrate on your top stats, you will end up with a total of 85 ability score points total, but your top 3 ability scores will improve to a total of 55 points. There you go. Remembering that your lowest 3 ability scores probably not going to change at all. Now, my system, on the other hand, if you go all the way up to level 20, so you've been improving by a total of +2 each level, a total of 19 times, your total ability score will now be 105, which is significantly more than the current system, 20 points more than the current system. But your top 3 ability scores now add up to 60 as compared to 55. So it's 5 points more. So you started with your total ability scores being 7 points less, and your top 3 abilities being 5 points less, and you end the game with your total abilities being 20 points more, but your top 3 abilities only being 5 points more. Where's the crossover point? Well, for total ability score, let me have a look here. You're looking at between level 5 and 6. At level 5 and 6, your total ability scores between the 2 systems are about the same. And your top 3 ability scores, the crossover point is between level 7 and 8. So before levels 5 and 6, the old system is better overall. And between level 7 and 8, the old system is better for your top 3 ability scores. But after that, the new system does give you a slightly higher average in total. The important thing for me is that the total ability score is much, much higher. This means that your lowest 3 ability scores are going to be improved vastly. I think this is really useful because it bolsters those saving throws that your character is terrible at. Imagine being a level 20 character and still having a -1 on your charisma saving throw. You are now going up against monsters that might require a DC 22 saving throw, and if it's a charisma saving throw, you're rolling with a -1. So it's a natural 20 or you fail. I don't think that's great. This system, I worked it out, I theory crafted it for a character. Their lowest ability scores were 15, 15, 15. That's a +2 on their 3 worst abilities. So any save has, at worst, a +2 on them. I'm going to throw in that I also would recommend changing the ability score caps. The way I've modelled it at the moment for this new system is that your ability scores are capped at 16 up to level 5. They're capped at 18 up to level 10. 20 up to level 15, and 22 up to level 20. And the way I've checked this out is a level 20 character in this new system could have ability scores of 22, 22, 16, 15, 15, 15 by the time they get to level 20. That's pretty good. If they wanted something more balanced, you could have 105 split 6 ways. Having a brain fart here. 105 split 6 ways. I've been ill. Forgive me for doing maths. 17 or 18. 3 17s, 3 18s, which is pretty good. I think that's fair. So, to summarize, my recommended ability score mechanic is you start with a standard array, 14, 14, 12, 10, 10, 8. You lose ability score bonuses for player species or race or background. You lose ability score increases for half feats, and you lose the instead of taking ASIs where the character class says, you get feats. But every level you increase your lowest ability score by 1, and then any other ability score, or the same ability score again, by 1. So lowest ability score by 1, then any ability score by 1. And there is an ability score cap. Level 1 to 5, it's 16. Level 6 to 10, 18. Level 11 to 15, 20. And then level 16 and above, 22. I think this has potential to change the way you build and level up your character. I think that level of constant progression makes leveling up your character more interesting and more fun. And I think it removes the less fun elements of save or suck spells against terrible spell DCs when you have very, very poor ability score modifiers in your dump stats. In fact, it kind of takes away the idea of dump stats. The fact that your character is going to be quite well-rounded by the time you get even to the mid-tier game, and by the time you get to higher-tier games, your characters are going to be at least competent in everything. At least not incompetent in everything. If you have at least a +2 to everything you're not proficient in, then your character's been around. They know how to do everything, at least a little bit. They've seen the world, they've survived, they know what they're doing. So that's what I'd recommend. That's implementable right away. I think it could be great fun. It certainly makes characters a little bit less powerful at the beginning of the game and a little bit more powerful at the end of the game, and I'm okay with that. A lot of ideas I have seem to make things a little bit more powerful. So having something that makes things a little bit less powerful at the start, I think is a good way of balancing them out. Anyway, give it a go. Tell me what you think. And until then, enjoy your next game, whatever it may be.